One of the challenges any church will face is that there are seasons in which you will find yourself stuck, maybe stagnant, and unfortunately sometimes even in decline. What do you do when your church is in that position? When you find yourself, maybe you're declining, maybe you feel like the church is stuck. I wish I could give you a formula and just say, hey, just plug in this and everything's going to be fine. But the reality is there are no cookie cutter solutions for reversing a church that's stuck or helping that church that's in decline. See, churches have unique characteristics because the reality is each church has unique people. There are different reasons which can cause a church to get stuck or even move into the area of decline. It could be anything from poor leadership or being locked into traditions of the past. It could even be simply a change in the local demographics of a community. It's difficult even in those moments to copy what someone else has done because the causes are all so different. And I would, at the same time, I would consider it arrogant and even hurtful for me to pretend to have all the answers for a church that I don't know. But I do want to give you a few suggestions that have come to my mind and my attention over the years of working within the church. And I hope you find some hope in these as well. But before we dive into those suggestions, let me remind us all that don't forget that God really is the one in charge. We need to learn to trust in His leadership, trust in His vision, trust in His timing, and things always, we know, go better when we learn to value things that He values as well. But here, let me give you a quick 7 suggestions that you can do if you find yourself, your church, your situation is in decline, or even if it's stuck. The first suggestion is this: evaluate. Evaluate everything. Take time and ask the questions. What went wrong? Or maybe even what's going wrong? Why are less people attending? Why are new people not attending? Or why aren't they staying? Ask the hard questions. Is it programmatic? Is it a people problem? Maybe it's a biblical issue. Is your church just plain boring? If nothing has changed in the programs you offer even in the last 10 years, I may already have your answer. But ask questions. Ask for inside and outside opinions. And the reality is this takes courage. It takes guts. But it is a critical, necessary process that any leader and any church needs to walk through. You can't address problems until you really know what those problems are. You may need an outside perspective to come in and help bring clarity to what's actually going on because we're so ingrained to who we are and where we're at that we just don't see it. One thing you could even do is consider trading with another church, letting them actually come and evaluate you while you take time to evaluate them. Consider asking visitors or somebody from the local community to come and be a secret shopper in their attendance, to give you an objective outside look at all the things that they experience when they come to your church. You must evaluate, even if you're afraid to know what the answers are. The second suggestion is learn to own it. Problems are real. Don't take time and pretend that they're not. At this step, cause or blame really isn't as important. They were important maybe in the first step because they may alter your response, but now the problems are there. They're real, and those problems are yours to deal with as a leader. They're not going to go away without a level of intentionality. Don't deny them. Start owning the issue. I oftentimes see a lot of churches avoid the issues because maybe they're difficult, or they're going to be unpopular, or they're just tough to address. Consider finding a biblical story where people of God were called to do something which didn't involve a certain level of risk or hard work or even fear or the necessity of faith. I suggest that you walk them through that story and help them realize the importance is learning to trust God, walk out in faith, and we have to change the things of the past. The third suggestion is address those obvious or big issues. This is hard. Perhaps one of the hardest things that a leader has to do within the church. If the church has forgotten your first love, take time to repent. If the church is holding on to bitterness or anger from the past, learn to forgive. If walking by faith has been replaced by the abundance of structure or the abundance of even finances, learn to step out boldly. If the church is living in disunity, it needs to learn to come together first before it can move together later. if you love the traditions more than the commands of God, it's sin, and that which causes us we need to turn away from. If the problems involve people, don't be a people pleaser. Address them. This requires leadership. Jesus talks about the fact that we're all like sheep and that we've all gone astray. Church leaders, it's a call to lead. And leadership takes us through the hard places to get to the best places. But if there are obvious issues that need to be addressed, you can try 100 of special programs or events and nothing may work because there's a roadblock that needs to be addressed first. Let me say this on the side. Not every church can be saved, in my opinion. God really promises the church will prevail, but the promise is not given necessarily to a specific church. I mean, take the church of Laodicea, for instance. If the issues can't be solved, it really is going to be difficult to move the church forward. Next piece of advice I give you is find alignment within the church. In other words, where does the church best find unity? What will everyone in our community get excited about doing? This, and many times, is a vision, or it's a moment in history that was special to everyone, or a common thread within the DNA of the church. Consider finding and focusing and giving some extra attention upon that. In my experience, God will not bless a church in its disunity. But churches have issues, causes, or programs that everyone can actually get excited about and support. Working together usually builds enthusiasm, which leads to momentum and unity. Next suggestion is take time to regroup. See, at some point, regardless of how drained you may feel from the decline, you've got to come to a strategy of what to do next. And my encouragement is take time to actually write that out. Writing it out provides you a roadmap, in essence, of where you're going in the next season. It's biblical to think ahead. Consider Luke 14:28. See, I've never personally been able to plan in great detail more than 12 months out, and sometimes, especially in times of less clarity. Only a few months, but you do need a plan. Start with your overall vision and explore ideas of how to accomplish it again. Put some measurable goals in place to make progress things you'll do next week, maybe next month, in a few months down the road. See, doing this will help hold yourself accountable. If you're an action-oriented strategy, it will build momentum as people have something to look forward to doing. Next suggestion is reignite that vision. Put your energy and resources really where it matters most. Now, this will oftentimes involve getting back to the basics of what it takes to achieve your vision. If you're a church with a heart for missions, for example, amp up your mission efforts. If special events are your wheelhouse, do them and do them well. It may mean not doing things that aren't working. See, they tend to drain energy and take our resources. And the reality is, anytime you cut something out, it's going to become unpopular. Look for what is working or has the potential to work again. The fastest, and begin to stir energy around that program or that ministry. See, you need quick wins at this point so the church can feel a sense of momentum and progress again. Next suggestion is take time to celebrate. There are going to be wins along the journey. You may have to look for them some days, but when they do occur, celebrate. Celebrate big. Remind people that who God is and how big God is, and that He is a God that's still moving here and among them. Now, it should be noted for overly celebratory types that you can't celebrate everything. If everything is wonderful or amazing, then wonderful and amazing becomes average. They really need to be legitimate wins. If you celebrate mediocrity, you'll begin to set a precedent or create a culture of mediocrity. But when you see signs of heading in the right direction, take time to make a big deal about it. Guys, these were just a few suggestions that I want to strongly encourage you to look at if you want to see the church grow again, or if you see that the church is getting stuck and you want to move beyond that and keep from staying where you are. Let me encourage you, be intentional. Be willing to ask for help. When the time calls for it, raise the white flag and invite honest dialogue. See, the harvest is ready and the workers are few. We need you. We need to move forward. The mission is too critical for us not to.